Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Thursday, May the 27th. We have yet another another three-game slate, so we're going to break down this three-gamer, guys. Go through each game like we always do. We'll talk about each team. I'll give you guys, my thoughts on the slate, what does stand out to me looking at the slate on Wednesday night, just, my early thoughts. So before we get started with the breakdown, as always, I would appreciate it if you would click that like button down below. If you are new to the channel here, be sure to click that subscribe button as well, and also hit the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You also do get notified every time I live stream. Once again, I should be live Thursday afternoon, probably around 5:30 Eastern time. We do have a little bit of a later lock today. Lock's 30 minutes later than normal. It's 7:30 Eastern, so I'll probably go live about 2 hours before lock, probably like 5:30 Eastern. So if you're free then, you want to check my channel, I should be live breaking down the slate, answering all your guys' questions. So yeah, be sure to tune into the live stream Thursday afternoon. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, guys, and let's go ahead and take a look at Thursday night's slate. So we'll start off with the Milwaukee and Miami game. We got game 3 of this series, going back to Miami. Miami back at home now. So we'll start off on the Milwaukee side, looking at the Bucks here. So far through these 3 games, like, the Bucks have not been a team I've rostered much of. I did play Giannis I think the first game 1 of this series. I did play Brook Lopez last game, but I haven't played Chris Middleton. I haven't played Drew Holiday. I haven't really been on DiVincenzo. I think that's kind of going to stay true today. I think Giannis at the top for 10,900, does look like a pretty good pay-up option here. There obviously are other studs to get to. You have Jimmy Butler on the other side of this game. You have Jokic you can pay up for. You got, the Lakers guys. You got LeBron and Anthony Davis. You got the Suns guards you could go to. There's plenty of other pay-up options, but again, I think Giannis, looks like one of the best pay-up options. He's been so good, through 2 games in this series. He's played 45 minutes in the overtime game in game 1, and then he played 31 minutes in a blowout last game. He still has scored over 60 DraftKings points in both games. 61 in game 1, 65 DK points last game for Giannis. He's going to play monster minutes. If it's a close game, you're going to get probably 40 minutes from Giannis. We know he's got monster upside. He's, just been doing what Giannis does. He's going out there and he's scored. He's getting rebounds. He's getting assists. He's just a guy that stuffs the stat sheet. 10,900 still does feel a little bit too cheap for Giannis. Like, he should probably be like closer to 12K, especially with how well he's playing right now. I do really like Giannis on this slate. If you can fit him in, I think he's a really good play. It's just on these playoff slates, we've kind of seen already, the value is really tough to find, and even some of the value plays you do wind up going to, you're not going to have much confidence in them. We've seen a lot of the value plays, kind of a lot of the chalk value so far in these playoff slates has busted. That's the risk with rostering these studs. It's just you're going to have to go to some of this value that you don't really feel good about. But if some of this value does do well and Giannis does well, that could be the winning combo today. So I think paying up for Giannis does make plenty of sense. But then, like, Middleton and Drew, I don't have much interest in. Middleton, just a guy that I never roster. Like, I never played Middleton when Giannis is healthy. He was terrible last game. I would expect him to bounce back here, but for 8K, there's just too many other guys I prefer in that price range over Middleton. Same with Drew Holiday. I think there's just other guards I'd rather get to over Drew. I would say that between Drew or Middleton, I would definitely rather play Drew. Drew he does more with the peripherals. He's not as scoring dependent. He's a guy that, can do a little bit of everything. For 7,600, I think he is a decent guard option, but I still would probably rather get to a guy like Devin Booker. Between him or like a CJ McCollum, that would be close for me, but yeah, I think Drew's a fine option. Then Brook Lopez for value, I don't mind. He's 4,700. He played 23 minutes in the blowout last game. In game 1 of this series, he played 31 minutes in regulation. So I think here we probably get, or in the close games, I would say, in close games where Lopez is not in foul trouble, I think he probably plays around 30 minutes. For 4,700, if you're going to get around 30 minutes from Brook Lopez, I think he's a decent value. He's not a guy that I play often, but on these short playoff slates where you don't really have any value, Brook Lopez is going to be a guy that I do continue to look to as a cheap option. But that's probably it for me. Bryn Forbes had a massive game off the bench, got really hot. I'm not going to chase that. I'll let other people chase that. I'm not playing Bryn Forbes today. So for me, from Milwaukee, it's Giannis, it's Drew, it's Brook Lopez. Those are the guys I have the most interest in. And then Middleton's okay, DiVincenzo's okay, but that's probably it for the Bucks. Now, moving on to the Miami side, Miami so far, especially last game, they were a team that burned me heavily. I was very high on Jimmy Butler. I like Goran Dragic a lot. Both those guys had pretty bad games, especially Butler. Both of them, lost minutes due to the blowout. But in DFS, man, you have to have a short memory. I've said that multiple times. I like going right back to these Miami guys. 8,400 for Jimmy Butler, I still think is too cheap. I know he had a terrible game last game, but I'm not really going to look too much into that. We know Jimmy Butler has massive upside. We know he's a high usage player, a guy that's going to go out there and take a ton of shots. He can get peripherals. He's got massive upside. We kind of saw that in Game 1. He had a terrible shooting game in Game 1, and he still scored almost 50 DraftKings points. Last game, they got blown out. Jimmy just played terribly. I would expect him to bounce back here. Miami getting to go back home, I think, is going to be good for them. I think it's more likely these games do stay close, when Miami's playing at home. If we get a close game here, I expect Jimmy to play around 40 minutes, and he's got 55, 60-point upside when he's playing, 40 minutes. So still really like Jimmy Butler. I hope people get off of him, given that he burned people last slate. I hope people just don't play him today because I still really like Jimmy Butler. Still one of my favorite plays. He's still underpriced at $8,400, and on Yahoo I do like him over there as well. His price tag at $41. A small forward, if I can pair for Jimmy, definitely my favorite small forward on Yahoo. I don't think he's going to be that popular either because you have Middleton for a lot cheaper. You have Michael Porter Jr. you can go to for cheaper. I don't think a ton of people are going to pair for Jimmy on Yahoo, but I do like him over there as well. Then outside of Jimmy, you have Bam at $7,500. So far through 2 games in this series, he's not really been that great. In Game 1, he played 41 minutes in the overtime game, but only had 37 DK points. Then last game, basically everybody was terrible for Miami. They got blown out. They lost by like 30. So you got bad games from basically everyone. I don't really want to look too much into last game. But yeah, so far Bam he hasn't been great, but $7,500, the price tag is coming down. I think Bam's a decent option here. Now, is he a priority for me? I don't think so. I still prefer some other centers we're going to talk about. I like Nurkic a lot. I still like DeAndre Ayton a lot. But I think Bam is a good option at $7,500. Now that price tag is starting to come down, he does look pretty appealing. Tyler Hero has been pretty bad through 2 games in this series. He's not been shooting the ball well. His minutes have not been that high. He's only played 19 and 18 minutes. I don't think that continues, but man, it's tough to roster Hero right now at $5,500 until we actually see him have a good game. He could pop off at any moment, but I think I'm just going to wait and see on Hero. I really don't have much interest in him. I would definitely rather play a guy like Dragic. Dragic's minutes seem to be very secure right now. It seems like he's going to play probably around 30 minutes a night, even coming off the bench. Dragic is a guy that's just good in this offense. He's been really good for Miami. He was really good in the playoffs last year for the Heat. And last game, 24 minutes, obviously that's a little bit of an outlier due to the blowout. He did lose minutes in the blowout. Game 1, though, he played 30 minutes off the bench, 35 minutes, and you count the overtime, he played 35 minutes. But, yeah, I think we get like 28, 30 minutes a night from Dragic off the bench if the game stays close. We know he's a guy that can, average around a fantasy point per minute. Most nights, if he's playing 30 minutes, he's going to give you, around 30 DraftKings points, if not more than that. $5,100 does still feel a little bit too cheap for Dragic. So he's my favorite of the Miami guards between him, Hero, and Nunn. I like Dragic the most, and I do like Dragic on Yahoo as well. $18, I think he's one of the better point guard options on Yahoo in that lower mid-range. But then outside of Dragic and Jimmy, I don't see too much else I like on Miami. Dwayne Dedmon had a really good game off the bench. He played 21 minutes, had 32 DK points. I don't want to chase that. I think a lot of people might go to Dedmon today, but I'll probably let others chase that game. I think most nights, if it's a close game, Dwayne Dedmon's he's probably only going to play 15 minutes. Whatever Bam Adebayo, if Bam Adebayo plays 35 minutes, Dwayne Dedmon's probably only going to play 12, 13 minutes. They did play Dedmon alongside Adebayo a little bit last game, but I don't think they're going to do that again. I'd be surprised if they do. So I'm not on Dwayne Dedmon. I'll let other people chase that performance. Duncan Robinson, he's a scoring dependent guy for $4,600. You could roster him and just hope he knocks down his threes, but I just never like playing Duncan Robinson. Same with Trevor Ariza. Trevor Ariza is going to get the minutes, but he's a low usage guy, doesn't really have much upside. Another guy I don't really want to go to. Kendrick Nunn, minutes have been down for him lately, so he's really tough to roster right now. So I think that's probably it for Miami. My 2 favorite plays here are definitely Dragic and Butler, and then I think Bam's in play. But that's probably it. I don't see too much else I like on Miami. So next game, we'll talk about Phoenix and LA. On the Phoenix side here, looking at the Suns, you have Devin Booker at the top for $8,100. Was really disappointing last game, Devin Booker was. Played 40 minutes, but only had 34 DK points. He had that really big Game 1, played 45 minutes, had 55 DK points. Kind of came back down to earth a little bit. We know Devin Booker has 50-plus point upside. I don't think, he's going to be a guy that puts up 50-plus every night, but with him getting, 40 minutes a night right now, with Chris Paul, clearly not being 100%, the workload is going to be massive for Devin Booker. I expect he plays around 40 minutes a night, in competitive games. with Chris Paul still a little bit injured, maybe we see Booker, take more of an offensive role, take more shots, maybe get a few more assists. At 8,100, I think he's still a pretty good option here. I do like him quite a bit, though, on Yahoo. I think that's where he looks better. Just because, especially on Yahoo, you have to play at least one shooting guard, and the shooting guard position overall is not that great. You have Booker and CJ McCollum at the top, and then you have guys that you don't feel like confident in, like DiVincenzo and Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson, KCP. I don't really want to go to any of those guys, so I think if I can pay up for Booker at shooting guard on Yahoo, he is definitely someone I do want to try and get in. $33, I think he still feels a little bit too cheap on Yahoo. So I definitely like Devin Booker today. A little bit more on Yahoo, but I think on DraftKings he's a good play as well. Chris Paul, though, just tough to roster right now. He's listed as probable. He's expected to play, but he clearly was not 100% last game. He only played 23 minutes. He barely played in the second half. I think he played like 6 or 7 minutes in the second half, and then he didn't touch the floor at all in the fourth quarter. They went with Cameron Payne, in the closing lineup over Chris Paul. You have to assume that Chris Paul plays his normal minutes here, but he's clearly not 100% right now. He's going to be low owned, but it's just too risky, I think. I don't think I'm going to go to Chris Paul in the slate. Wouldn't it be surprising if he finally bounces back and has a good game and plays well? Like, I would not be surprised, but I'm worried about Chris Paul right now. I think I'm just going to take a wait and see. If he goes out there and puts up 50 DraftKings points tonight, then, whoever plays him will definitely benefit, but I think I'm probably going to be off Chris Paul until we see him actually have a good game. I'm not convinced that he's fully healthy right now. DeAndre Ayton, though, I do like a lot. He's probably my favorite play from the Suns today. When you do factor in price point, I think 6,300 is still too cheap for DeAndre Ayton. I like him a lot on both sides. He does still feel too cheap on Yahoo, $25. He is definitely one of my favorite center plays on Yahoo. So if we look at the game log so far through 2 games in this series, Ayton's been getting the minutes, and that was something that we didn't really see a ton during the regular season. Like, during the regular season, his minutes would kind of fluctuate. Some games he'd play 34 minutes. Some games he'd play 25. Some games he'd play 36. Then he'd get in foul trouble. He'd only play like 22. Well, so far through 2 games in the series, he's played 37 and 42 minutes, and he's been super productive, 44 and 37 DraftKings points. We know Ayton's a productive player when he does get minutes. He's a guy that can score around the rim. He's a guy that rebounds very well. He's got 20, 25-point upside. He can go for double-digit rebounds. Like, he can give you 20 and 10 on a nightly basis when he's playing nearly 40 minutes. So if we're going to continue to get 38 to 40 minutes from DeAndre Ayton, 6,300 is just way too cheap. Like, this guy should be probably like $7K, 7,500 if he's going to continue to get the minutes like this. And I have to assume that he's going to continue to play these monster minutes, especially with how well he's been playing lately. So I do really like DeAndre Ayton. He remains underpriced. He's definitely one of my favorite plays overall today. And then you have Mikal Bridges for 5,200. Another guy that I don't really like rostering, but he's going to get the minutes. He should play probably 30, 35 minutes, if not more than that. If you want to go to him at 5,200, I think he's fine, but not a standout play. Cameron Payne played a ton last game. He played 33 minutes off the bench. You have to assume a large majority of that was due to Chris Paul, not playing much in the second half. If Chris Paul plays his normal 35, 36 minutes today, how many minutes does Cameron Payne play? Probably like low 20s maybe, if that. I'm just not convinced we're going to get 30 minutes again from Cameron Payne. I guess they could play him and Booker and Paul together. Like, they could run a small ball lineup, play all 3 of those guys on the floor at the same time, but I'd be surprised if they do that for a good amount of time. I just don't really see a path to Cameron Payne playing big minutes if Chris Paul's fully healthy. Now, could Chris Paul go out there and play 25 minutes again? I guess, but I'm assuming Chris Paul is going to be good to go. The fact that he's probable and he's expected to play makes me assume he's 100%. I thought he was 100% last game, and he clearly wasn't, but yeah, I think Cameron Payne is probably going to be a guy I avoid today, especially with his price up to 4,800. Now, Jay Crowder, I've played him both of these 2 slates so far, and he's gotten in foul trouble both games. He got in foul trouble game 1. He got in foul trouble game 2. He's played 29 minutes in both games. I think if he wasn't in foul trouble, he would have played more minutes. Like, he probably would have played 33, 34 minutes had he not been in foul trouble. So we have definitely lost minutes for Jay Crowder due to foul trouble. He's also had some pretty poor shooting games, like 30% from the field game 1, 25% from the field game 2. Shot 0 for 7 from 3 game 1, just 1 for 6 from 3 game 2. Crowder eventually is going to start knocking down some shots. He's going to make some threes. When he does have those games where he knocks down some shots and makes some threes, he's going to put up 25, 30 DK points. At 4,400, I think he is still a pretty decent value play. I think most nights he's going to get probably low to mid 30s minutes. And at 4,400, that does make him a decent value on a slate where we are lacking value. So I do like Jay Crowder for value still. But that's probably it for this Phoenix team. So moving on to the Lakers side, talking about the Lakers here. A team I don't have a ton of interest in outside the top guys. You have LeBron for 9,800. You have AD for 9,700. On this slate, I think I'd rather go to like Jimmy Butler for cheaper. I think I'd probably rather play Dame at a similar salary. It'd definitely be close. You still have Giannis at the top you could go to. You have Jokic at the top. You can't go wrong with LeBron or AD on a short slate like this, but I don't think neither one are going to be priorities for me. LeBron last game was kind of disappointing. Played 37 or 39 minutes, but only had 47 DraftKings points. AD, though, did have a massive game. He really bounced back. He had a poor performance in Game 1, but he bounced back in a big way in Game 2. Played 40 minutes, had 67 DraftKings points. I mean, we know AD has this kind of upside, but at his price point, I think there's just other guys I'd rather go to. Like, I feel better about Jimmy Butler for cheaper. I think Jimmy Butler can outscore Anthony Davis, and he's $1,000 cheaper. You have Jokic, who I like. We've already talked about Giannis, who I really like. I just don't think I'm going to get to either LeBron or AD. I think if you're playing multiple lineups, then you definitely want to have exposure to these two Lakers guys. But if I'm just playing one lineup today, I think I'd rather play Jokic, Giannis, Butler. Like, I think I'd rather go to those guys over the Lakers. So, and then, outside of the two Lakers studs, you have, Drummond for 5,900. I just have no idea how many minutes Drummond plays here. Game 1, he played 19. Game 2, he actually played really well, but he still only played 24 minutes. So, like, even if he's playing well, we still might only get 24, 25 minutes from Andre Drummond. So, just a tough guy to roster right now. Even if he gets like 25 minutes, I just don't think he's going to be someone we really need to go to. I think he's someone we can probably avoid. Dennis Schroeder for 5,800 feels priced appropriately. He probably plays like mid 30s minutes. He did have 34 DK points last game. Did have a pretty solid game. I think for 5,800, Schroeder's a decent option. I don't think he's like a guy you have to go to. Like, Dennis Schroeder never feels like someone that's going to go out there and break the slate. He's had some good games in the past whenever LeBron and AD's been out, but when LeBron and AD are out there, those are going to be the two guys that really dominate the usage, and Schroeder's going to kind of take a back seat. But 5,800 could definitely give you 35, 36 DK points and be a solid play at this price point. So I don't mind Schroeder. I would say out of the Lakers, this Lakers team, I think LeBron, AD, and Schroeder are the guys I'm really interested in. And then KCP, just for the minutes, I think is a viable cheap option. Obviously, KCP has very little upside so far through 2 games in this series. He's only scored 15 and 8 DraftKings points, but he has played over 30 minutes in both games. He probably plays like 32 to 34 minutes here. For 4,300, he's a solid value, but I wouldn't say he's even a solid value. He's just a guy that's going to play minutes and he's cheap, so that makes him viable, I guess, but not someone I really want to be having my night ride on. That's probably it for the Lakers, though. I don't think I'm going to go to any of the bench guys. Caruso last game, I think, got more minutes. He only played 19 minutes, so yeah, that's probably it for the Lakers. I think we can go ahead and talk about the last game of the night, talk about Denver and Portland. So looking at Denver today, you do have Jokic at the top, 10,700. I think Jokic, a pretty good pay-up option here. Between him or Giannis, I think I prefer Giannis just because there are some centers I do like over, for cheaper. You have Ayton, you have Nurkic, we're going to talk about on the other side of this game, who I like at center. So there are other centers I prefer over Jokic when you factor in price point, but clearly on a short slate like this, Jokic is a top pay-up option. We know what we're going to get from him. He's going to play probably 36, 38 minutes if this is a close game. He's got massive upside. I really don't need to tell you that Jokic is a good play on a 3-game playoff slate. But outside of Jokic, I think there are some other appealing plays from Denver. Michael Porter Jr., I liked a lot last slate. He was very popular. He was definitely underpriced at only $7K. He had a pretty bad game, only had 29 DK points in 33 minutes, but I like going right back to MPJ today. I think at 7,100, he, again, is underpriced. This is a guy that we saw priced a lot, in the 8K, close to the 9K range for most of the regular season. He's definitely too cheap right now, especially, while Will Barton's out, while Jamal Murray remains out. It's going to be, MPJ and Jokic really dominating the usage on this team. Those are going to be the 2 top scorers for this team. I like MPJ a lot at 7,100. I think he's still a little bit too cheap on DraftKings. He's definitely a guy I'm interested in at that price point. Again, he was someone that burned me last slate, but in DFS, man, you have to have a short memory. Even if guys were... If a guy was a good play and he busted and he's a good play again the next day, you just play him again. You can't let whatever happened the game before dictate what you're going to do the next day. So still really like MPJ, even though he burned me last slate. I think he's still underpriced. But that's probably it for Denver in terms of like top options. I think there are some secondary plays like Aaron Gordon. I think is fine to sprinkle in. Monte Morris, I don't mind as a value play. He did get 30 minutes last game. 4,200. He's still relatively cheap. You know, he's not a great point per minute player, but if he's going to come off the bench and play like 25 to 30 minutes, as a value option, 4,200, you know, if you're trying to go with like a stars and scrubs build, if you're trying to pay up for multiple guys at the top, I think, you know, a guy like Monte Morris could definitely make that lineup work. He's a solid value at 4,200, but that's probably it for me from Denver. Rivers probably plays like 25 to 30 minutes. Between him or Monte Morris, I think I'd rather roster Monte Morris, but I guess Rivers is a fine play. That's probably it, though, for Denver. I think Jokic, MPJ, Monte Morris are my three favorite plays here. Now, on the Portland side, looking at the Blazers today, you have Damian Lillard at the top, 9,400. You know, Dame was awesome last game. He had a stretch where he was literally just making, like, every shot he took. I think he made, like, 5 threes in a row. He was just insane last game, scored 68 DraftKings points in 42 minutes. Look, we know Dame's going to play massive there's going to play 40 to 42 minutes, if not more than that. You know, if this game stays close, we're going to get Lillard out there just a ton. I mean, there's going to be some games where Lillard probably plays like the entire game. I mean, he's got, you know, he's a good, or I shouldn't say that, but he's got good cardio. He's in shape. This dude can go out there and play massive minutes. So I think we get like 42, 43 minutes from Dame at 9,400. Again, like, you can't play everyone. You're going to have to make some cuts. I think right now I prefer Jimmy. I think I prefer Giannis as well, and probably Jokic, but Dame I'd rather have over the Lakers guys. Like, between Dame, LeBron, AD, like, I think I'd rather go with Damian Lillard there. I mean, it's so hard to not have interest in Dame. I mean, we know the kind of upside he has. He's a guy that when he just starts knocking down shots, like, he's just going to keep taking them. Like, he'll have 2 defenders in his face, and he'll just take a three-pointer from 30 feet. I mean, he doesn't care. Like, he's going to go out there and chuck. He's going to take 25, 30 shots. If he has a good shooting game, I mean, you could get another 65, 70 DK point game from Damian Lillard. So definitely like Damian Lillard. CJ McCollum, I think, is okay. Probably would rather play Drew Holiday, I think. I think I do give the edge to Drew at a similar price point. I think I'd rather get to Devin Booker as well. But, you know, McCollum's okay. Nurkic, though, I do like a lot, 6,800. Nurkic I was very high on last slate. You know, he burned me as well. Only had 26 DK points in 25 minutes, but he did foul out in 25 minutes. You know, foul trouble, it's a concern because he's going up against Jokic. Jokic is obviously a guy that can draw a lot of fouls. You know, could Nurkic get in foul trouble a lot in this series? He absolutely could, but I think if he's not in foul trouble, we're going to get like 32 to 34 minutes from Nurkic. He did play 33 minutes in game 1. He wasn't in foul trouble then. Scored 42 DraftKings points. We know Nurkic is a very high upside player and a guy that can average, you know, over a fantasy point per minute. So if we get like 30 plus minutes from Nurkic here, he's going to wind up being a pretty good play at 6,800. We just got to hope that he doesn't get in foul trouble, and if he doesn't, he's likely to pay off this price point. So I think Nurkic still looks like one of my favorite center options. I do like him a lot on DK, and I think he still looks really good on Yahoo. $29, definitely too cheap over there. So I really like Nurkic, and then the rest of these guys are just kind of dart throws. Like Norman Powell, 5,400. He's going to play pretty big minutes. He's not a very high upside player. He hasn't been very good so far with the Blazers. Like his fantasy value has just taken a massive hit on this Blazers team. He's not nearly the same productive player that he was when he was with the Raptors. But he's going to play a ton of minutes. He's cheap. He's a fine play. Same with Robert Covington, but you know, Robert Covington last slate literally scored 12 DraftKings points in 37 minutes. Like, this guy just has no upside. I mean, he's going to have to knock down like 5 or 6 threes to get there. He's going to have to fall into like 5 or 6 rebounds. Between like him or Jay Crowder, like I'd rather roster Jay Crowder. I feel better about Jay Crowder. I feel like Jay Crowder can be more productive than Covington. Both guys should play pretty big minutes. Both guys are low usage players, but yeah, Covington's just one of these. He's one of these cheap guys, like a KCP, like a Jay Crowder. He's just going to get the minutes. You never know what you're going to get from him, but the minutes should be there, which makes him an okay value play. But that probably does it for Portland. I think my two main guys I like here are definitely Dame and Nurkic, and then you know CJ McCollum's okay. Covington's okay, Powell's okay, but Damon and Nurkic are the two standouts from this Portland team. But that does it for all 3 games, guys, on this Thursday slate. I hope you did enjoy the video. As always, if you did, be sure to click that like button and click that subscribe button as well. Also, hit the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You also do get notified every time I live stream. Like I said, guys, I'll be live once again Thursday afternoon around 5:30 Eastern time. If you guys want to come hang out, I'll be breaking down this slate on my YouTube channel, talking through everything, you know, answering all your guys' questions. But I appreciate you watching. Best of luck tonight. Hope you enjoyed. We'll see you in the next one. Good luck, guys. Peace.